All right, welcome back to another episode of the Boardroom. Today I have with me, and I'm really excited about this. I have Don Costa. Don, this is a pleasure for me because ages ago I was on your podcast, so I'm so excited to like repay this to you and have you as a guest on mine. I don't want to say how long ago that was. I feel like we're closing in on a decade now.
It's been a decade. It's been a minute.
All right, there's going to be a small edit in here before we're rudely cut off by internet problems. I was just saying that I think we've known each other for the better part of a decade now, and really started out as this online presence that Mel and I found, and throughout the years went from being a mentor, and now I'm proud to say you're a friend of ours. And then being in the same mastermind together, we really created like a family atmosphere. So I'm really excited to have you on. Do you want to take a few minutes or really a few seconds and give a high level overview for anybody that hasn't heard your name in the real estate industry? It's hard to imagine they haven't heard of Don Costa or Flip Talk, but if they haven't, who are you? A little bit about your background.
Well, I will say this: I've been quiet for a little bit now, so I'm sure that there are a handful of people out there that are in the newer space side of the space that don't have any clue who I am. So, but yeah, no, I've been a real estate investor for 23 years now. I started out as a rehabber way back before YouTube and podcast, and even I think Google was even kind of on the newer side. And so I learned, by flipping through pages of addresses and having to print out maps and driving around door knocking and that kind of thing. And started out as a rehabber, doing everything subject to for 5 years. And then I lost everything in 2008. I think that's the quickest synopsis there. In 2008, I had a big head, and I thought that everything I touched turned to gold. And the market changed so rapidly that so many people lost a lot, and I was one of those people. And after a few years of licking my wounds, I got back in the business, and started one property, then two, then four, and built my way up to a pretty good machine. At one point we were doing about 200 deals a year. We've scaled back quite a bit, through the last handful of years, just because I'm doing other things and other projects. But I've done hundreds and hundreds of houses as rehabs. I've done hundreds of houses as wholesales, and it's been a great experience. I've got to meet a lot of great people in the process, and it's been a lot of fun. So that's it.
Awesome. I was thinking of a question as you were explaining that, being that you've been in the business for 20 plus years, do you find that, because there's so much at our fingertips now when it comes to technology, we have all of these CRMs and we have AI now, which is the hot topic. And do you feel like there is a limitation? I don't know how I want to ask this, but maybe a limitation on people getting into the business with this technology in place that is kind of hindering the hard knocks, if you will, that you were able to have in the beginning. And even us, we didn't have all the technology we have at our fingertips now a decade ago. Do you feel
Right.
there's a hindrance there?
I think it's just human nature. I think that there is so much information right now that they can become overwhelming if you let it. I think that there are so many people out there that are trying to be content creators. Some of them really, really incredible people. Some of them don't know the business, in any way, shape, or form, and shouldn't be out there doing content, and some of them are probably a little less honest than others. So knowing who to follow and who to get information from and how to implement that information, the fact that there's so many things coming at you from so many different directions can give you that whole shiny object thing we're talking about. So there's that. But like when I started, you had like Charlton Sheets and a few other infomercial guys that you would order their books and tapes off of, and you would listen to their books and tapes, and there wasn't a whole lot of guidance in the space. And so when I got in, it was, there was a lot of uncertainty about how to move and what marketing to do. And there just wasn't the education. So I could argue that it's easier now than it ever was. But then like you said, some could argue that it's too overwhelming. So I think it's human nature to make excuses on taking that step. Anybody who really wants it's going to find somebody who resonates with them and really plug into that individual and learn from that individual, and they're going to take the steps to move forward. Anybody who's not fully dedicated is going to find every excuse in the world not to do it.
Part of my soul is antiquated. Like I like old school things. And I think part of the reason why I asked the question in the first place is I think, and maybe I'm wrong about this, that if you rely on, and I don't want to come off the wrong way because there is a strength in this technology. I take advantage of it too. But I think having learned it without it almost makes you stronger using it because you know what this looks like and you know what this looks like. I'll use a simple example. Let's say lead management, right? You're talking to people on the phone, you're following up with them, you're not closing every deal on the first phone call, right? So the ones that you need to follow up on, if we just rely solely on technology for that, there could be missing pieces on responses or missing pieces on picking up the phone, and there's a strength in still doing that human aspect of it. So the hybrid of it, I feel like, is lost in some cases. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yes. Okay. So there has to be a human element, and for so many years, people have been teaching this kind of push button, everything done for you. You can do everything from a laptop, for 5 minutes a day, and spend the rest of the time at the beach with your family. Type of education, which hasn't really fundamentally existed until now. Now with AI and everything else, it's like you almost don't even have to interact with your business. It's going to get to that point, but I still believe that there has to be that human interaction. I believe that even with all the automated follow-ups and with AI, if you're like we're implementing AI into our business, we're testing a lot of it out right now. Even with all that, there's still that human component. There's reading people in the conversation and understanding when to ask for the close and when not to ask for the close, and properly anchoring in a conversation based on what the actual pain point is, and all the things that come along in a sales process that I think gets lost. And it's the personal touch and follow up. You can have all the automations in the world, but if you're not checking in and building that relationship, those relationships go a long way when a seller's really ready to make a decision and make a move to sell. And if you're not cultivating that relationship, you really are missing something in your business. So I think technology is going to allow us to do so much more, so much faster. I mean, man, I've gone down the cloud rabbit hole, and it is just blowing my mind. And I'm a 50-year-old guy. I can imagine what some of these 30-something-year-old guys are thinking about some of this technology. That are wrapping their head around it a little faster. It's probably just absolutely blowing their minds. And I think it's going to change the business in some many amazing ways. But if you lose that human component, you're gonna lose some amazing deals, some amazing relationships, some amazing opportunities along the way.
No, I agree. And another reason I brought it up is because I'm guilty of it. The automations and the technology at the fingertips is so attractive that when you get so involved, like six to 8 years into the business, and you're dealing with a whole bunch of stuff, the one mistake I did make is, ironically, which my strength in it is the sales part, is delegating that out to a computer and having those conversations be had by a computer doing text message automatically, which has its place, like I said, for follow up. But once that triggers a response, what I was missing is picking up the phone and calling them again. And then, once I got that back on track again, then the business was able to pick back up again, and the sales conversations could start back up instead of just relying so heavily on the computer. So I do see a danger in that for people just getting into the business and going all in on AI, because that is the current shiny object. But if used right, you can be dangerous in a good way.
If you use right, it can be extremely dangerous in a good way. You don't always have the human component. I'm gonna say that again. Always have the human component for sure.
Yeah, I wanted that message said out loud because I
Yeah.
don't I don't feel like that's said enough. Um, so as tell me a little bit about so I'll selfishly ask a question because a lot of the people I work with are just solely in sales, right? They're either getting into this because they want to buy and hold, flip, or wholesale for the most part. Once they start getting some contracts under their belt, what are some things to put in place around you, and how do you figure out what that even looks like? I know you've built out this machine, like you said, you were doing 200 deals, right? What's the first thing you're looking for? Because it's the question, I've heard it a lot. I've heard it on podcasts. I've asked the question in the past, so I want to get your feedback on that. What is the first thing that you're looking for to build around you? And there's no one good answer for that, but how would you answer that question?
I'm gonna give you kind of a different answer than I think you're looking for in the beginning, and then I'll get to the question you asked. the One of the biggest mistakes I think people make, and I've seen through the years in this business, is you get in with this optimistic naivety that you're going to build this amazing thing, and you have no idea what it's going to look like. You don't know what the end looks like, and you get in there and you build yourself a prison. And I've seen it happen over and over and over and over again. You build this large team, you build this large machine, you're doing a lot of deals, but you're not really making any money. You're chasing shiny objects, you're chasing the next big thing, you're trying to implement whatever it is in your business, and you're trying to outrun this tidal wave that's eventually going to catch you. And I've seen so many amazing people build these amazing businesses that aren't making any money, and they're trapping them like a prison. And then eventually they break at some point. The business breaks, or the person breaks, or something breaks because you built something you didn't really want. And so I think, what I'll say is that I believe that you need to start with the end in mind. And we don't know that going into it. You need to decide what you want to build ahead of time. Do you want a large company that's doing a lot of deals? Do you want the most profitable version of a one-man show you can build? Do you want something in between? Like what does freedom look like to you? Right. And so I think that's an important question to answer. Even if you're in your business, like what does freedom look like to you? Because you end up going to a mastermind or you go to an event or you listen to a podcast, you hear about whatever this person's doing that you're not doing, and you steer right to do what that person is doing. And you go to another thing and you hear what this person over here is doing, you steer left to do what that person's doing. And pretty soon you have this Frankenstein of a business. So start with the end in mind. Know what it is you want to build. Like right now, I have other businesses. And so while I'm still doing deals and stuff, I want to build the smallest, most profitable version of the business I can build. I no longer want a 20-person team and 200 deals a year. That's not where I'm at right now. And so I want a very small, precise, highly profitable machine. And like I said, I'm 50. I want to make money without having to put pants on. And then when I put pants on, it's because I wanted to. And so I want my life to look different. And so being able to answer that is important. And then once you know what it is you want to build, then it's like, okay, you get the first piece in place, the first lift in place. What's the next thing you need? Is it a person? Is it a process? Is it software in your business? And you look at, okay, what is it I need to implement next? And that's, again, it's something you need to sit down and really answer for yourself. Like I'm banging my head against a brick wall every single day with this issue, or once a week with this issue, once a month. What's the thing that's going to solve that? Is that a process in my business? Is it a communication issue? Do I need to implement something like Slack or some other platform in my business? Do I need somebody on my team to take something off my plate that's keeping me from making money? And then, once you determine, yes, I have things that I absolutely hate to do, and I'm coming into my office or my home office or whatever, and I'd rather drink bleach than do those things, so I avoid them. Well, I need to hire somebody that's going to do that for me. Is that going to be somebody that's going to be in-house, or is that going to be a VA or somebody that's going to be virtual to my team? And you got to start answering these questions. We're adults here. We're trying to run businesses, and we're not sitting down and actually looking at the problem and go, okay, what is going to be the thing that fixes this for me? And what's going to be the right thing? And I think really not listening to what I'm saying on a podcast, what you're saying on a podcast, what somebody else is saying on a podcast that they should do, and sitting down and saying, okay, what is it I need and what's going to fix that? And what are these things out here that people are talking about that could fix that is really the conversation you should be having, if that makes sense.
It does. And that's the answer I was looking for. What I like about it, the answer we're giving is coming from experience, right? It's not what you should do because that's the cool thing to say. It's really being drawn from experience and building the prison. I'm guilty of that. Ellen and I built a prison. When I think back to the beginning of our real estate investing career, what puts excitement even today back on our faces again is remembering how we started out, sitting on the floor in the living room. We had full-time jobs at the time, sitting on the living room floor at night, watching whatever we were watching, but we were sitting there stuffing envelopes and getting our first 50 letters out the door. That's still exciting to think back, like, look what we did, like we're here now, but look what we did back then and really like built off of that excitement. And then at some iteration is when, where you say build your prison, I think we did that because we felt like we had to, because that was the cool thing to do. Like you had to build a big team and you had to do 500 deals. But if you ask me today, I realized that that was a mistake, not a mistake I regret, because I think I had to go through that, but it's not something that I'd advise everybody to do. And I feel like at some point, people do advise that, which is the wrong way to look at it.
And if that's what you want to build, that's truly what's in your heart of hearts you want, then let's find a mentor that can help you build that. But know if that's something you want to build. And you said something about stuffing envelopes. I really want to point this out because right now, a lot of people are struggling in this business for the last couple of years. I think that they got caught in the tidal wave of the great market of 2021, 2022, even 2023. And a lot of people got caught and they started struggling and they're trying to figure out what to do and what works and what marketing channel to chase and everything else. And you said something that about starting out and sitting on the living room floor and stuffing 50 envelopes. And one of the things that I say to people now when I'm working with people, I do a lot of looking at your business that's broken and doing some one-on-one mentoring on how to fix this component of your business and stuff. And you're over here trying to do this thing that isn't proven. Why not go back to the thing that is?
Yeah.
Like if you're in a situation right now in your business and you're hearing this and you're like, I can't figure it out, whatever it is, it's not working now. What was it the last time your business was working? What were you doing? And whatever that was, whether sitting on the living room floor and stuffing envelopes or dropping direct mail, or maybe you're doing Facebook ads at the time, or whatever it was that you deviated from to go chase a shiny object, it's time to go back and take a look at that and say, okay, can I go back to that and make it work again? A lot of us started out with these really simple. I was door knocking pre-foreclosures. You were stuffing envelopes. I was stuffing envelopes on the living room floor. I had my kids stuffing envelopes on the living room floor. And those things worked and they got me deals. And then suddenly I wanted to scale and I built all these marketing channels. And then all of a sudden we're not getting the same conversions and the same this and the same that, and suddenly the deal flow starts to die. Well, let's go back to the basics of the stuff that actually is proven. And I just want to kind of throw that out there because I know somebody needs to hear that. Like,
Yes,
find where your
absolutely.
business was broken and go back to that point and maybe do that.
Absolutely. I'll say there's a danger in making money because what ends up happening is you're stuffing those 50 envelopes. Those 50 envelopes turn into maybe a deal, and then that deal
Mhm.
turns into 100 envelopes. And then when you get enough money to move on to the next thing, rather than what I would do today is keep what's working and maybe add to it if it's time. But what I did instead is remove the thing that was working. And because I can afford this, it's a little bit more, and then move towards that marketing piece. Then I got rid of this completely. We did no more letters. which is which is the wrong way. So if I had to rewind and do it all over again, I would keep what works, add to it instead of getting rid of it all because then you're starting from scratch.
Every time. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm glad that I've had people come up to me within the past couple of weeks and ask me those questions, and I was like, wait, I have a guest coming on my podcast that's probably going to answer this the way I want it to be answered. Because I feel like if you ask some people that same question, they'll say, oh, well, if you're good at this, just find something you don't like and maybe hire a transaction coordinator first or hire your COO first because you don't have anybody else in the business. Like those just I don't relate to that. That's not a good answer.
Yeah. When somebody says who's the first hire, then if they're truly trying to hire somebody, well, find what you hate to do and hire somebody to do that, right? And then the next hire is, whatever else you suck at that's keeping you from making money or taking time away from you actually doing money making activities. Maybe that's your next hire. But and then those are reasonable answers. But again, going back to let's start with the end in mind and figure out what you actually want to build. And then, let's really answer the question of
Yeah.
what's going to solve that problem first, because it may not be a hire. And I've seen so many people struggle because they're spending money on people when it's too soon, or they're spending money on, five different marketing channels when they should be focusing on one. Right. And so I'm at a point right now. It's like, I want to be clear. I'm not going to tell you that there's an easy, you just, drink this elixir and you're going to grow this 200 deal business in 30 days. That's not how business works in any business. There are a lot of things and a lot of answers out there in the real estate space that will help you grow fairly rapidly. But sometimes if you grow fairly rapidly, you grow yourself right out of making money. So again, it goes back to what is it you really want to build? How do you want to get there? What's the right way to do it in business? And answer those questions and make the right move.
And although it's not the sexy thing to hear, if you align yourself with people that have been through those hard knocks and actually take their advice and build the business maybe a little bit slower but intentional, you're going to be so much ahead of the people that are going for that shiny object out of the gate. There's something that you said twice now, which I don't want to lose in this, is because you need something in your business doesn't mean it has to be a person. It could be a Slack, it could be an app, it could be something that you add to your current CRM that is going to offload something. It doesn't have to be a salaried person or a commission person. It could just be something simple that just takes that one thing off your plate that day and makes you better tomorrow.
Yeah, it could be outsourcing. For instance, having a call center, a proper call center answer your calls, right? And so, a call center that obviously specializes in answering calls for real estate investors, but maybe you just absolutely hate answering the call when you have marketing. I know I don't want to answer every call because especially with direct mail, the half the calls are, I hope you die in hell and laced profanity conversations. So but I don't want to send it to voicemail either. So I may have a call center answer those calls, or I may hire a lead manager to answer those calls. So, but what's right for your business, and that's important.
Do you have a highlight folder?
Do I have a what folder?
A highlight folder? We have a folder of its MP3 files of people that are like the most colorful calls we've gotten back before.
We have. So yes, we have recordings
Yeah.
saved. And then at one point, I'm not sure what happened, but I found the file the other day. We were scanning in all the letters and the returned postcards and different things we'd gotten through the years with all the handwritten notes that were on them.
Yeah.
Basically, we're scanning those in and saving them, and we're going to put a little book together. And I'm not sure why we never followed through with the book, but I probably got hundreds of those that we've scanned in where it's like, you took the time to tear up my postcard and write me a mean letter. You could just throw the thing
Yeah.
away. Yeah.
Like, how many pizza coupons do you get in the mailbox, and nobody's calling the pizza place like, I'm not getting pizza tonight.
Right. Right. Exactly. So it's crazy.
So in the beginning, you said you had some other things going on. You want to tap into that a little bit? Like besides wholesaling or flipping, is there anything else
Yeah. So, I a handful of years ago, I acquired a CRM called Forefront CRM. And if anybody wants to check that out, I'm going to shamelessly plug it, forefrontcrm.com. If you use, let's just use, I believe it's I-60. I don't know. Anyway, we have a discount code, but you can reach out to me at donnafliptop.com if you want the discount code for 90
I'll get it
days
in
off.
the I'll put it in
I
the
can't
notes
think of
too.
it. Yeah, off the top of my head. But so I have that going on. I'm working with an incredibly intelligent individual on a data product called First Pulse, and people can check that out at firstpulse.ai. If you go to that website right now, it may change, but if you go to the website right now, it says we're sold out. That's because we're really limiting who we're taking on as clients. But that's something I'm excited about. I'm partnered in Centerpoint VAS, which is a VA service. I know you do your own thing, so I'm not going to plug that too much. But so
So you
I
can
have
plug
I
that.
just
I don't actually do that anymore, so you can plug it all you
okay,
want.
fair enough. So I have a lot of little partnerships going on that I'm excited about, and we're doing some really cool stuff out there. So I'm behind the scenes. I'm working with a couple different AI things that are going on. One of them, which that I'm really excited about, is an AI. The AI conversational AI stuff where they're answering your calls and they're doing some of your lead management follow up and different things like that. And so my day's pretty full, and I'm still doing deals. I've been really trying to do this exercise where this watch me scale exercise for the last year, where I'm actually taking the calls and going out on appointments or closing over the phone, and so I've done a handful of deals that way where I've had no one else involved with myself, from the marketing decision to the closing of the sale to the doing the deal,
Okay.
and we've done a handful of rehabs that way. I haven't as much as I probably would like to, just because I have so many other projects going on right now, but it's something that I'm going to really focus on in 2026. So if you go to watchmescale.com, you can sign up to get notified when I start to push more content out about that. And that's where I'm really sitting in every single seat doing the deals myself. And I've done the project management recently. And the funny thing I've learned, I want to say something. The funny thing I've learned with this is people say direct mail doesn't work, or this marketing channel doesn't work, or that. I'm sending out direct mail because that's what I love. Okay, I stick to what I love, and I am closing deals. I'm closing deals on an average about $5,000 per deal in my market. One of the things that I noticed that a lot of people don't take into account is you're not really tracking like what is working with that marketing channel. And what I mean by that is, um, for me, who is a seasoned closer, 23-year closer, who I think the only person better at closing than me is you.
No.
It takes me on average 20 days from first contact to close. And the fact that I know that about my business is important, because I know that I follow how important follow up is. I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
somebody calls in off a soft offer card and they want the offer on the card, which is like 220 grand, and I needed to get it for 180. It takes me a couple of weeks of conversations and back and forth sometimes to get them down to the 180 I need, the $40,000 discount. Now, I've had one call closes and I've had some that have taken any longer, but I'm averaging 20 days. And so when somebody says a marketing channel doesn't work, it's because on that first call or second call, they didn't get the contract and they're not doing any follow up. And so I can tell you that direct mail works at $5,000 cost per deal. It gives me a 5-to-1 return, which means I'm averaging about 25, or it's about $5 for every $1 I spend. So I'm averaging about $25,000 profit on a $5,000 cost per deal.
Okay.
And it takes me about an average of 20 days to close. Knowing that in my marketing channel that I prefer, I can now start to pour fuel on the fire and see if I continue to get the same results, or if I get better results or worse, right? And so people need to really stop. And that's part, I think, being involved in your business and not leaving it all to automation, is
Yes.
they need to stop and be like, what is working in this marketing channel? Why is it working? How is it working? How can I make it work better? And they're not doing that. If they're
Yeah.
not getting that one call close, they're just moving on and they're not doing any follow up. And I think that's what's destroying and hurting a lot of businesses right now.
Well, some leads are served up on a platter and then they're forgotten about, and that's everything else is measured against that. So I agree with you there, because one of our most successful marketing channels was also direct mail. And you can't gauge the success of that even over sometimes a 3-month period, because they may call you a year later. I mean, we had one recently when I say recently, it's within the last year that we closed, that the first time I sat with that couple was 6.5 years ago. That's our longest follow-up that was successful. But if you don't know that, then you would call that unsuccessful, because I would have forgotten about that postcard 6.5 years ago and then thrown that away.
We've had a handful of deals, especially right around the time that COVID hit, that closed, that were in our pipeline for about 1,200 days, which is about 4 years. and 3 years and change. It's now I'm not saying that everybody has to run a business that crazy about follow-up. But again, understanding what your average, close time is, I think is important. Is it 10 days? Is it 14 days? Is it 60 days on a particular marketing channel? Because then you're able to be like, okay, am I on point? Is my team on point? Is the marketing channel starting to fall off? Is it starting to pick up? Like, and what does my follow-up cadence need to look like? And so, we had one that popped up on our radar that was ready to sell at a price that we could buy it at in January. And looking back, the first call was in 2023.
Yeah.
So those it's important to understand that. And that's where, again, especially on the newer side, I think so many people are falling short of building a real business because all they're trying to do is generate more and more leads, and hopefully you're going to get that one that's going to stick against the wall, and instead of
Yeah.
doing a little bit of work to get it to the finish line. But anyway, I digress.
Well, look what happens, and let me add to that. Look what happens here. I can talk to my experience on that deal especially, and this is what happens. Like, it's not gonna happen with every person that calls you up, obviously, but this person said that they weren't ready yet. They weren't upset with my offer. They just weren't ready yet. So that becomes a lead for life. Like, you're not ready yet. You're gonna be ready at some point. So what happens over time organically, what people may not notice that haven't done this yet, and I did through just experience, is when you call them, like, we're going to leave that conversation and say, all right, well, you're not ready yet. Is it cool in a couple of months if I just give you a call and check in? Sure. Call and check in. Not ready yet. Call and check in. And you're not asking about the house every single time. You're not asking about the same questions that you had on the original appointment. You're just, how are you? How are things going? Has anything changed? Is there any questions you have for me? Like different things to just ice break that next conversation. Now, I say that took 6.5 years, but I've talked to them a number of times over that 6.5 years. About 2 years in, when I called, they had my number saved in the phone. The call wasn't hello, it was, hey Chris, what's up? You're getting to know that person. You're building that relationship. But so I called them all those times throughout the 6 years. But that final one, that call was inbound to me and said, hey, we're ready. Something happened in our life. We need to sell this yesterday. Can you come tomorrow and we'll get this done? And that's how that's built. That's building a true business because now you're relationship based. You're not starting from scratch every single phone call.
I 100% agree with you. And so many people, so many gurus out there are teaching basically if it's not a one call close, you're doing the sales process wrong, right? Or basically follow ups are for failures. I think I've heard that thrown out there. And, between what makes a business work fundamentally is, first of all, finding the marketing channel that you can get behind, that you can know and understand, right? And you can figure out exactly what makes it tick. And then you want to have a follow-up process in place that is going to not only catch the stuff based on what is reasonable for that marketing channel to work as far as time frame from first contact to close, but also have a follow-up process in place to pick up the stuff that changes their mind. We had one that we bought for 80 grand that was in our pipeline for 3 years that somebody wanted 80 grand when we talked to them the first time. The only reason it worked the second time, or when we finally bought it, was because the market changed, right? And so that just stayed in our pipeline and the market changed. But so you want to pick that up. And then you need to start building relationships around it. You need to start going out and talking to agents and going out and talking to other investors and going out and networking and building relationships, because you need that additional deal flow that's going to come from people that are going to be referring you to sellers. And if you can do that with one marketing channel, you're going to be able to build a pretty good sustainable business, even as an independent person with a very small team. And you're going to be very successful. Then if you want to grow and scale, then you can look at, do I grow that marketing channel? Do I grow other marketing channels? How do I go from there? But start with a core marketing channel and understand it, how it works backwards and forwards. Make sure you got good follow processes in place, build relationships in your community, and you're going to have a really good foundation for a strong business.
With that said, I don't want to keep you too long. But with that said, I do want to ask you about one other thing. It was First Pulse, right? That was one of the companies that you're working with right now. I know we talked a little bit off camera about that. There's some cool stuff there that I think would align with what we're talking about here. Do you want to just say a little bit about that? Like, what is First Pulse?
So First Pulse is really a data company. At its core, we've had some AI and some machine learning and some algorithm stuff in the background, along with a really cool scoring system that we put together that really tells us who you should be marketing to right now. Like, who is going to, more than likely, more than any other seller out there, pull the trigger to sell their home, right? And you go to a market and you could pull 40,000 or 140,000 or 200,000 records in a particular market. This has taken all those records that you could pull and saying, okay, these are who you need to target out of all those people. Maybe you need to target this 20,000 or 10,000 or whatever, right? And so the way I kind of describe it is, you either play darts with a blindfold, which is what we're typically doing more marketing. We're just trying to hit everything we can, or you can really you can take the blindfold off and you put a laser pointer on your dart and you really focus in on the target. And so first pulse helps you focus in on that target. And what's cool about it is, the cost of direct mail, just say as a marketing channel, has more than doubled since I started really being heavy in direct mail. In 2018 is when I got the heaviest in it. I was paying 30 cents a postcard back then. In some cases I was paying
Yeah.
32 depending on the card. Now, I mean, there are places charging 65, 67 cents a card. And the main reason is because the cost of postage, and postage is going up again this summer. And so the only way to really keep your cost per deal down is not to mail everybody, but mail the people who are the most likely to be the people that are going to say yes to your marketing. And we're helping you do that. So that's number one. Number two is you don't have to do any kind of list management. And this is the part that you sometimes have a hard time explaining, but you don't have to do any list management. I remember in 2018, I sent out about 1.2 million postcards, and I had an elaborate Excel spreadsheet month by month tracking who I sent to, when I sent them to, what the list criteria was, what our split test tracking was. It was just insane trying to figure out who to mail to when. And in this particular case, First Pulse takes data and it basically silos the data in three different silos based on certain criteria that it meets. And based on that criteria, it'll put it back on your list in the appropriate amount of days for follow up, if that makes sense. And so, for instance, we
Okay.
have one that's called Blitz. That's the stuff you need to be hitting on a regular basis. And so, based on the criteria we set, once you pull your list this week, it will not come back on your list again until that amount of days has passed. But before it puts it on your list, it checks everything to make sure that that property still belongs on your list. Is it still active? Has it sold? Is it listed? Does it meet all our criteria? And so there's no list management. Each week you pull a list, you send it to your mail house or your call center for cold calling, and you don't have to manage anything. When it's time to follow up, that lead will be back on your list without you even thinking about it. So literally, you're just basically your marketing is kind of happening for you, kind of automated to a certain degree. And that's the magic of it. So we're giving you what I think is some of the best data you could possibly get. And then we're telling you who to market to and when, so you don't have to think about it.
I like things I don't have to think about. So it sounds like it's like almost like a score driven behind the scenes, right? It's giving that lead a score. And if it makes the list, that's what you're sending out. You're sending out the best of the best.
Send out the best of the best. You're not spending any more marketing dollars than you need to get the deals that are really out there.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, we're coming up on almost 40 minutes here. And I want to thank you for your time. I feel like what I know about you, I think we tapped into about 1% of the knowledge in your head. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the boardroom. What is the best way for people to get in contact with you?
They can email me at don@fliptalk.com if you want to, basically find out about anything that I got working on. If you just want to give me some feedback on how wonderful I did on Chris's amazing show, you can email me there. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. I have my own podcast called Flip Talk. I haven't been putting out a lot of episodes. I do kind of sporadically now, but there's over a decade of episodes there you can go back and listen to. And then, of course, fliptalk.com is a great place to kind of learn some more and find some resources. Yep, that's what I got.
And I'll get with you and I'll get those the number of things into the show notes. I'll make sure I tag them in there.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks a lot, Don.
All right, buddy. Thank you.